The television didn't just turn off in the 1970s, it died. Every night around midnight or 1 in the morning, the screen would flash the national anthem, maybe a test pattern, and then nothing but static. That white noise meant the world had officially closed for business until morning. No streaming, no late-night binges, just the hum of dead air telling you to go to bed. That's the thing about the 70s. So much of daily life operated on schedules you couldn't control, rhythms you just accepted. And now, almost all of it's gone. Phone booths stood on every other corner, big, heavy glass and metal boxes that smelled like cigarettes and desperation. You needed to make a call? You found a booth, dropped in a dime, later a quarter, and hoped the line wasn't busy. If you were running late, you stopped, called home, and your mom actually answered because the phone was attached to the kitchen wall. No voicemail, no texting, just pure chance that someone would be there to pick up. And if they weren't, you dealt with it. Those booths weren't just functional, they were lifelines. Breaking down on the highway meant walking until you found one. Getting lost meant stopping to call for directions, assuming you had the number. By the 90s, they started disappearing. Today, finding a working phone booth is like spotting a unicorn. TV Guide was essential reading, not the website, the actual magazine. It came every week, thick as a novella, packed with grids that told you exactly what was on and when. You planned your evenings around it. If you wanted to watch The Waltons or Happy Days, you marked it, remembered it, and showed up on time. Miss it? Tough luck. There were no DVRs, no on-demand. You either caught it live or waited months for a rerun. Families gathered around one television set, and whoever controlled the TV Guide held the power. By the time the internet arrived, nobody needed a magazine to tell them what was on. The last print edition rolled out in 2005, but its real death happened years earlier when people stopped caring about schedules altogether. Rotary phones weren't retro. They were just phones. You stuck your finger in the little hole, dragged it all the way around, and let it spin back. Dialing a number with a lot of 8s and 9s, that was a workout. Mess up the last digit, start over, no redial button, no speed dial. And forget about calling long distance without thinking twice. That bill came at the end of the month like a slap in the face. The satisfying mechanical click of each number, the weight of the handset, the coiled cord you'd stretch across the kitchen while talking. It was tactile, real. Touch screens killed all of that. Now we tap glass and wonder why nothing feels permanent anymore. Smoking sections weren't tucked away in corners. They were everywhere. Airplanes had ashtrays built into the armrests. Restaurants split their dining rooms down the middle. Smoking or non-smoking, your choice. Offices had ashtrays on desks. Hospitals had smoking lounges. You could light up in a grocery store and nobody blinked. It wasn't rebellion or edgy. It was Tuesday. The shift happened gradually, then all at once. California banned smoking in restaurants in 1995. Airplanes followed. By the 2000s, lighting up indoors anywhere public became almost illegal. What was normal for generations became unthinkable in less than 20 years. Typewriters clacked in every office, every newsroom, every writer's desk. The sound was unmistakable, sharp, rhythmic, oddly comforting. You loaded paper, lined it up, and started hammering keys. Mistakes meant white out or starting fresh. There was no delete key, no spell check, no undo. You thought before you typed because retyping an entire page wasn't just annoying, it was an hour of your life you'd never get back. Newsrooms in the 70s sounded like thunderstorms. Dozens of typewriters going at once, phones ringing, editors shouting. It was chaos with a beat. Then computers arrived, quiet and efficient, and suddenly all that noise disappeared. The last major typewriter manufacturer, Brother, stopped production in 2012. But really, typewriters died the moment Microsoft Word made editing effortless. These weren't just objects or habits. They were entire ways of being that shaped how people communicated, planned, and moved through the world. And what replaced them didn't just improve things. It erased the texture of everyday life, smoothing out the rough edges until everything felt frictionless and forgettable. But there's more to this story than gadgets and technology. The stuff we lost wasn't always replaced with something better. Sometimes it was just replaced with something faster. And faster isn't the same as richer. Take letter writing. In the 50s, people sat down with pen and paper and actually thought about what they wanted to say. You couldn't delete or edit. Once the ink hit the page, it was permanent. So you chose your words carefully. Letters took days to arrive, sometimes weeks. But when they did, they meant something. People saved them in shoe boxes, tied with ribbon, kept them for decades. Now we fire off texts in seconds and forget them in minutes. Efficient, sure. Meaningful? Not really. Or consider repair culture. Back then, if your radio stopped working, you didn't toss it. You took it to the guy down the street who fixed radios. He'd open it up, replace a tube, solder a wire, and hand it back for a couple bucks. Same with shoes, clocks, toasters. Everything was built to last and designed to be repaired. Throwing things away wasn't just wasteful. It was shameful. You took care of what you had because buying new wasn't always an option. Today, planned obsolescence is the business model. Your phone slows down right when the new one drops. Coincidence? Not likely. Community mattered differently too. In the 50s, your neighbors weren't just people who lived near you. They were backup family. Someone got sick? Meals showed up on the doorstep. Car broke down? 3 guys appeared with tools. Kids got into trouble? Every adult on the block had permission to correct them, and your parents thanked them for it. There was accountability baked into daily life. You couldn't be anonymous in a small town. Everyone knew your business, which sounds suffocating, until you realize it also meant everyone cared. Contrast that with today. You can live in an apartment building for years and never learn your neighbor's name. We're more connected than ever through screens, but lonelier than we've ever been. The 50s had party lines where neighbors could hear your phone conversations. Annoying, invasive, but it kept people linked. Now we have privacy and isolation in equal measure. Even entertainment was communal. Drive-in movies weren't just about the film, they were social events. Families piled into station wagons parked in rows, hung speakers on their windows, and watched together under the stars. Kids played on the swings up front, while parents relaxed in the back. It was cheap, accessible, and everyone was there. When drive-ins started closing in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't just a business shift. It was the end of a specific kind of togetherness. The 50s weren't perfect, not even close. Segregation was law in much of the country. Women faced limited career options. Conformity was enforced socially and sometimes violently. If you didn't fit the mold, wrong color, wrong beliefs, wrong love, you paid for it. The shiny chrome surface hid deep cracks. But here's the thing people get wrong. Nostalgia isn't about pretending the past was flawless. It's about recognizing what we had that's now gone. The slower pace, the face-to-face interactions, the expectation that things would last, the belief that your work mattered and your community had your back. Those aren't myths. They were real, and they shaped people in ways that algorithms and convenience never will. We gained speed, choice, and efficiency. We lost patience, craftsmanship, and presence. Every technological leap forward came with a cultural cost that nobody calculated at the time. The microwave replaced the family dinner. The television replaced the front porch conversation. The smartphone replaced everything else. And maybe that's fine. Maybe it's just evolution. But it's worth asking what we're becoming in the process. The 50s generation didn't have better technology. They had better habits. They wrote letters, fixed things, showed up for each other. They lived in a world where your word meant something because people remembered when you broke it. That world isn't coming back. But understanding what it offered, what it demanded, might help us figure out what's missing now. Because somewhere between the rotary phone and the smartphone, we stopped calling each other. Somewhere between the typewriter and the laptop, we stopped thinking before we spoke. And somewhere between the neighborhood and the internet, we forgot how to be neighbors. The 50s didn't disappear because they were outdated. They disappeared because we chose something else. Whether we chose wisely is still up for debate. Looking back at what vanished from the 70s isn't about wishing for a time machine. It's about recognizing that progress always extracts a price. And sometimes we don't realize what we paid until the bill comes due decades later. Those phone booths, typewriters, and test patterns weren't just relics. They were the framework of a completely different way of moving through the world.